In the Untold History of Daoism video, I mentioned that Dao De Jing is more than just a book of philosophy. It actually conceals many Taoist inner cultivation practices. This is possible because the Chinese language is multidimensional, which allows such layers of meaning to be embedded. Not all chapters of the Dao De Jing contains these hidden messages. Some are purely philosophical. However, many chapters do contain these teachings. Those who have attended my workshops or studied the Qigong mode and Tai Chi posture requirement home study course will recognize at least one example where Dao De Jing is talking about Qi practice from chapter 3. However, this is relatively straightforward, not truly count as concealed. In this video, I'd like to present an example that does involve a more concealed cultivation practice, found in chapter 52. This whole chapter actually discusses Qi and spiritual cultivation, but let's focus on the second part of this chapter in this video. It states, 失其對，閉其門，終身不勤. The most common translation of these three sentences is close your appendages, or eyes and mouth, as some translations put it, seal the doors, and you will be danger-free. At first glance, it implies that one should not be a slave to the senses, since most desires are tied to them. While this interpretation is accurate, examining the works more closely reveals a subtle discrepancy with the first sentence, seal the dui. First of all, what is dui? According to the Chinese dictionary, the word dui could mean exchange, convert, redeem, or it could refer to one of the trigrams in Bagua. Interestingly, there's no reference suggesting dui means appendages or eyes. If the intention was to refer to the appendages, the second sentence would essentially repeating the first one. Taoist texts rarely repeat themselves needlessly. They aim to use as few words as possible. This is different from Buddhist sutras, which in this case, they may say close the eyes, close the ears, close the nose, close the mouth, close the body senses, close the mind. So clearly, the first sentence has a different meaning. Let's explore some alternative meanings for dui. Exchange, convert, or redeem, or perhaps as one of the Bagua trigrams. In Bagua, dui means the lake, and the character C can mean close, but it can also mean fill up. For instance, if I were buying apples and the vendor was bagging them, I may say 塞滿佢 to indicate I want the bag filled up. So here, 使 could mean fill it up. What then do we fill the lake with? Clearly, it is water. At this point, this might still not make any sense to many people, even Chinese scholars. But if you have been watching my videos or are my students, you already know that Bagua trigrams can relate to the body, especially in inner alchemy. In fact, the famous Taoist text Zhao Yi Chan Tong Qi discusses how to apply the I Ching to our body for inner cultivation. Looking at the dui trigram closely, you see it contains an opening at the top, corresponding to the Bai Hui, a crucial energy gate at the top of the head. As infants, our Bai Hui is soft, but it hardens with age. After some intense Qi practices involve the upper dantian or meditation, However, this area can soften again. A recurring theme in the Dao De Jing is returning to a baby-like or even prenatal state. Now you know why many religious people place items on top of the head as protection, or forbid others from touching their heads like the Buddhists. So after the byway gate opens, how do we fill it up with water? And where does this water coming from? For hints, let's look at the Neijing tool. In previous videos, I explained how in the Neijing tool, the river represents the spine, with the head at the top, and the bottom is the lowest part of the torso, which the Taoists often call the bottom of the sea. This area is depicted as an ocean with waves and a water wheel in the Neijing tool. If you trace the flow, you will see the source of this water indeed comes from the mountains, our head. My first experience of water flowing down from the head occurred during a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat about 14 years ago. Prior to the retreat, I had been practicing inner alchemy for about 3 years, but hadn't experienced anything like this, possibly because I hadn't practiced intensively enough. While doing the body scanning practice during the retreat, I suddenly felt water dripping from the top of my head, which then became a steady stream, filling my torso's upper part. As the flow strengthened, it moved down further, reaching the root chakra or the bottom of the sea. And then it felt as though this water ignited like kerosene, turning into fire, causing the energy to rise back up. Physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I felt incredible after this. When I shared this with the Vipassana instructor, he responded with the standard script. Whatever you experience, just ignore it and go back to body scanning. Then he shared his own experience. During a 60-day retreat in the desert, he heard a dripping sound, which initially thought was a water leak. But then he remembered he was at a desert and realized it was an internal experience. He reaffirmed the script by saying, ignore those distractions, they are common. And mentioned another student in the retreat even heard music during his meditation. By the way, several chapters in Dao De Jing discuss the sacred inner sound. While ignoring such phenomena is not wrong, understanding what's happening allows us to take advantage of them. For example, what does it mean when you hear the sacred sound? Indeed, recently, when I was talking about the inner alchemy process of generating the Golden Dawn at my online Neigong class, a student's eyes becomes wide open. Why? Because when he was a teenager, he naturally generated a Golden Dawn during a Buddhist meditation retreat. You see, that's why I stated retreat is really important in my newsletter. He didn't know what happened at that time, but that special phenomena had deeply imprinted in him. If he had proper guidance back then, he could probably have great chi and spiritual accomplishment already, instead of wasting that precious Golden Dawn. So here I was sidetracked. Yes, I was talking about water coming down. And this is not unique to just Taoist practice. It is common phenomena for serious inner cultivation or meditation practitioners. After that experience, I finally understand what the numeric for Hall 2 really talking about. First of all, what is Hotu? Hotu is the root of Bagua. It exists thousands of years before Bagua. The Hotu numeric starts by saying Sky 1 generate water, Earth 6 complete or contain it. Earth 2 generate fire, Sky 7 complete or contain it. While most people think this numeric is just for helping you to remember where are the numbers located, indeed it is much more than that. Remember, in this video, I said the Taoists viewed our body as small universe. Middle dantian and above is sky or heaven. Lower dantian and below is earth. As stated in the Hotu numeric, Sky 1 generate water, Earth 6 complete contain it. So water coming from above and the earth below contain it. After it accumulates enough, complete, then like the second sentence of the numeric, Earth 2 generate fire, Sky 7 complete contain it. And then this water, like kerosene, get lit from the earth, becomes fire, going back up toward the sky, the head. You see, there are fires going up from the Legion too. So this was the inner alchemy phenomena I experienced during that retreat. And this is what the sentence filled the day talking about in the chapter 52, Dao De Jing. The second sentence, close the doors. Most common translation is close the five senses. Yes, which is correct, but it is also referring to prevent leakage from the major child, particularly the one at the bottom. You could think of child as the major energy centers of our body. For most chakras, when we say open, it really opens up like this. Some describe it like a lotus blooming. However, for the root chakra, it is like this when we are children. After we have a sexual experience, it opens up like this, like a withering flower. So in our practice, we need to close it back to prevent the water we accumulated from leaking out. So after we accumulate enough water and prevent leaking out through the bottom, and also leakage from other child through various stimulations and desires, then it is like what the third sentence said, one will never be exhausted throughout their life, a step closer to become immortal. I hope you are following along, because I'm going to throw out another layer of meaning. Those who do Tai Chi Neigong and the practices from the Level 3 Qigong Mode and Tai Chi Posture Requirement course, after you keep charging the two dantians for some time, they will go through different stages of transformation. For the middle dantian, the first transformation is associated with the Shen trigram, the wind, because the practitioner would feel a cool breeze in the middle dantian area. The second transformation is associated with the Li trigram, fire. Li also represents young lady. A trait of young lady is they tend to have a lot of fantasy about love. So at this stage, the practitioner would be full of love, able to feel more, like more sensitive to different types of energies. Law of attractions and things manifest really fast. Some people at this stage may feel like God indeed. To most people, it is like dream come true. However, from the spiritual point of view, it could be a trap, because these special abilities could really boost one's ego. Also, the love that people feel at this stage is not truly unconditional love, which could easily flip into jealousy. So the practitioner will need to continue their practice. Again, this is not unique to just the Taoist practice. When I was practicing the Solar Qigong 20 years ago, which is a Buddhist practice, at level 2 it involved cultivating the heart chakra. So I was already at this Li trigram state back then. By the way, I have incorporated part of the level 2 Solar Qigong practice in the level 1 study course, I think 2 to 3 years ago. If you got the old manual, which is without the heart chakra meditation, then you can request for a new one. Anyway, I still remember back then, one time by just holding a homegrown tomato at my palm, tears came down. I felt so much love and appreciation from the nature, the sun, the water, and things would manifest really fast for me, which sometimes even make me a little bit scared about my thoughts. Back then, almost no one talks about the law of attraction. Okay, back to the Danton transformation. After this, at the third stage, the middle Danton further transformed to the Dui trigram. Dui represent lake, particularly without the sun and fire, so without the wind and the heat element. So it brings a sense of calmness. Imagine a nice calm day on the lake with no clouds. You see the reflection of the sky, the sun, the moon, and even the stars. It makes the person feel very peaceful. So at this point, the practitioner would always be in peace and calmness, no matter what external events happen or not happen. However, it is still just a reflection of the sky heaven energy. You need to go one more step. Feel the Dui. Transform the Dui to Qin by sealing the top through the inner alchemy process. Qin means sky, heaven. So then the middle Danton becomes the true sky and heaven, back to the prenatal status. I hope you can see from this example of how Taoists can conceal qi and spiritual cultivation in these few sentences. Actually, this whole chapter is about inner cultivation. For example, the first part of this chapter talks about mother and children. It is indeed talking about the inner alchemy process of reversing the 5 elements. For example, most people know in the 5-element theory that wood generates fire. It is quite easy to understand. By burning the wood, it generates fire. So the wood is like the mother, and the fire is like the child. However, it also means the essence of the wood energy is indeed in the fire. That's why in this chapter it says, once you see the child, return to guarding the mother. By reversing the 5 elements, you will be able to unlock the essence of wood energy from the fire. Another example which may be even easier to understand is water generates wood according to the 5-element theory. It is quite obvious as all plants need water to grow and survive. So the mother is water and the child is wood. And the water element's essence is contained within the wood. Can you think of one daily example of this? We actually have been harvesting this water essence from the wood for quite some time. Anyone? Think about how we collect the maple syrup. Of course, in the inner alchemy, these 5 elements are referring to the 5 major organs' energies. And finally, at the last part of this chapter, It also talks about the spiritual light. If you are interested in exploring the Qi and spiritual cultivation aspect of the Tao Te Ching beyond the philosophical, I highly recommend a book by my master, initially intended for advanced Neigong students, but now available to the public in English. I doubt there's another English translation of the Tao Te Ching that dives into these aspects so deeply. You can read a sample of the book online at this page. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.